Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Progressive Vibe with your host, Dottie. Today is April 18th, 2021. This is season 4, episode 2. And the title of this episode, Infrastructure Negotiations. I hope everyone's been doing good out there. I hope everyone had a great week, is having a great weekend. Mine was pretty smooth. As always, thank you guys for tuning in every week and catching the show out, guys. It means a lot. Thank you for sharing the show. It does go a long way in sharing the podcast so it can reach other people. Thank you for your kind donations to the show. I appreciate everybody checking out the website. And if you have not, don't worry. I'm going to give you that information so you can check it out if you like. The international love, I appreciate my international listeners. We have people from Australia, Germany, United Kingdom, Puerto Rico, and Ireland, I believe. So thank you guys for tuning in. The more the merrier, honestly. And it's just so awesome that I have just awesome listeners, and you guys have been so supportive, and you actually have been reaching out, and I really just appreciate the support, because I'm not doing this podcast for recognition or anything like that. I'm just simply doing it because I have a passion for politics. I want to see, people succeed. I want to see structural change for everyday, ordinary people. And I'm so appreciative, again, that my listeners want the same thing. And so I'm just grateful, guys. And together we're going to hopefully go and spread this word to places that, need the word to be spread. So again, I appreciate you guys. And with that, let's get into today's podcast plugins. So the first plugin is by Causes.com. Causes.com makes it quick and easy to understand laws Congress is considering. You can read clear summaries of upcoming and active bill, the news, and any matter of political importance. You can tell your lawmakers on how to vote on key issues by simply clicking the yay or nay button. And again, this is Causes.com. They have an app, and it's Causes, Causes. That's, again, Causes.com. And the second podcast plugin I wanted to share with you guys was by WordPress.com. So if you want to turn your podcast into a blog to help grow your audience, which I did, I'm going to share that with you guys here in a second. You can go to WordPress.com, again, to grow your audience with a podcast website. That is WordPress.com. And let's get into the website. So if you guys have something you want to discuss on the podcast, you can use the hashtag TPVibe, that's TPVIBE, on Twitter, or send a message from the contact form on the show's website. The website address is theprogressivevibe184970366.wordpress.com. If you want to stay in touch with the show, you can enter your email address in the Stay in Touch box on the podcast website. Again, the podcast website is theprogressivevibe184970366.wordpress.com to get every new episode delivered to your inbox. And last quick thing, guys, if you want to help us make the show You can donate to the show if you like by making any amount contribution. You will help us make stories matter. Again, you can do all this on the podcast website. One more time, The Progressive Vibe, 1-849-703-66.wordpress.com. And on that note, guys, let's get into today's show. Hey everyone, welcome to the main show. So let's get right into this. So the title of this episode, as I said in the intro, is Infrastructure Negotiations. So I wanted to run through this article with you guys. It's from Business Insider. It was wrote by Joseph Rogge, if I'm not mistaken, and it was published April 17th. Before I get into this article, I kind of wanted to give you guys like a little run through of what I think about the infrastructure negotiations. I'm going to save my analysis for the second half of the podcast. But beforehand, as I said, I'm going to do a little run through. So if you guys didn't know or not, the infrastructure talks in the in Congress is gaining traction. You have Democrats really pushing for this infrastructure plan. You have the Republicans trying to push some sort of counteroffer. And the Biden's infrastructure plan is $2.3 trillion. So that's I personally think that it could go higher. It can go more, but $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan is it's pretty robust. It's pretty heavy. Which is again, it's a good thing. But again, a group of Republicans, as it discussed in the article, is getting together to bring a counteroffer to Biden's proposed plan. It's a lot smaller. Shock. And there are different offers coming from the Republican Party, different offers pertaining to infrastructure negotiations. But the Republicans, they all seem to be united on one thing in Biden's infrastructure plan, and that's being in opposition of the corporate tax hikes. And so if you guys didn't know what the specifics of the tax hike is that Biden's trying to hike, they are the 2017 tax cuts that former President Trump's administration pushed through in 2017, giving the wealthy a nice size tax break. So in other words, more money in their pockets. And the middle class and the poor had to pay more in taxes. And, Trump said that the middle class and the poor wasn't going to pay more taxes. But what do you know? We ended up paying more taxes. And people who were close to Trump's money bracket and people who were in Trump's money bracket got up to $61,000 in tax cuts, if I'm not mistaken. But it seems like the Republicans are in opposition against Biden's tax hike. And to remind you, before we get into this article, this tax hike is a partial tax hike. The tax hike that Biden administration is proposing is 21% to 28%. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was 35%. I could be wrong. But Biden is doing the Republicans a favor and not even going full-blown mode back to the original standpoint of the tax hike. He's only doing partial. And it still is not enough for Republicans. They still don't want to go along with Biden's infrastructure plan. Now, when it comes to the infrastructure, Democrats and Republicans in recent history have seemed to got along with infrastructure negotiations or legislation, if you will. They disagree on numerous of things, pretty much everything. But in the past, they have gotten infrastructure legislation passed. So again, this is one thing that seemed to be a given, but it's not, because this is a different age of Republicans. This is not the same old GOP. This is not the same old Democratic Party, if you want to be fair. It's just not. And for worse or better. But let's get into the article at hand. So again, this article is titled "Republicans Have an Idea Who Should Pay to Overhaul the Country's Infrastructure. Average people." I agree. I mean, like the title of this article, I already agree with. I like how it's put, because that seems to be the thing that's going on here. So it goes on to read, guys. Infrastructure talks are starting to gain momentum in Congress 2 weeks after President Joe Biden rolled out his sprawling $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan. A Republican-led group of 20 lawmakers is gearing up to make a counteroffer in a bid to strike a partisan deal on a smaller package. Senator Shelby Moore, capital of West Virginia, floated, won this. I'm sorry, guys, I lost my place. Senator Shelby Moore, capital of West Virginia, floated, won this week in the range of $600 billion to $800 billion. But they are fresh signs of discord among Republicans on the price tag and is far from settled. It goes on to say the sole factor binding them together is opposition to Biden's corporate tax hike. Capital called it a, quote, non-negotiable red line. And other Republicans like Senator John Cornyn of Texas and Susan Collins of Maine agreed they wouldn't budge. Instead, they are suggesting potential user fees, a set of charges levied on the users of a federal service or good, such as raising the federal gas tax. User fees have support from the Chamber of Commerce, a powerful business group. Let's see. Goes on to say, quote, "My own view is the pay for ought to come from people who are using it. End quote. That came from Senator Mitt Romney. Goes on to say that could shift the financial burden of an infrastructure overhaul from companies onto people. Kevin D. Good, an infrastructure expert at the liberal-leaning Center for American Progress, told Insider. It has triggered intense resistance among Democrats. Quote, if the Republican position is that we're only going to do this by raising the gas tax and we won't accept an additional penny of corporate revenue, that won't be something our caucus can get behind, end quote. A Democratic senator spoke candidly. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down some. It's two sections to this. So this other section says pressing Republicans to roll back Trump tax cuts is like urging Democrats to repeal Obamacare. It goes on to say the U.S. generally funds infrastructure, roads, highways, and public transit like commuter rail through a blend of state and federal funding. Only about a quarter of spending on transportation and water projects stems from the federal government. That's down from a peak of 38% in 1977, leaving state and local governments to pick up more of the tab in recent decades. Biden's last two predecessors urged more infrastructure spending. Former President Barack Obama sought to close corporate tax loopholes to repair roads, bridges, and tunnels in a jobs plan, but Republicans lined up against it. The former president, Donald Trump, pitched $1 trillion in a new infrastructure spending during his 2016 campaign. Several efforts at a bipartisan package collapsed throughout his 4 years in office. Now a 5-year highway funding bill expires in September, providing lawmakers with something close to a deadline to get their public works priorities through Congress. Clashes are intensifying between Democrats urging tax hikes on corporate and high earners and Republicans pushing new fees on individuals. Biden wants to raise the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%, a partial repeal of Trump's 2017 tax law. A right-leaning Manhattan Institute said Republicans were unlikely to support rolling back their biggest economic achievement of the past decade. Quote, Republicans worked extraordinarily hard to enact major rewrite of the tax code. They're not going to reverse their signature policy to pay for Joe Biden's spending. That's like asking Democrats to repeal Obamacare to pay for a Republican tax cut. End quote. He outlined a potential plan that would include reproposing unspent emergency stimulus funds to state and local governments and moving federal money around the annual budget. Republicans floated a gasoline tax or a vehicle mileage tax on electric vehicles to finance infrastructure. Let's see. This is the second part, guys. Business groups favor spending on roads and bridges, but don't want to pay for it. It goes to say business groups generally want infrastructure spending, though targeted in scope. The Business Roundtable supports up to $1.5 trillion to return U.S. physical infrastructure to a state of good repair. Goes on to say, quote, there are clear benefits to business from additional infrastructure investing, but we also think it's unfair to ask business to shoulder or cover the additional cost of public infrastructure investment, end quote. This was from Brendan Buchtel, a leading figure in the Business Roundtable. But experts say there is simply not enough to be raised through charging new fees on drivers or other types of road taxes. Quote, user fees are not going to be sufficient, and there are sectors that don't have them, end quote, D. Good told Insider. For example, the Biden administration wants to put money into electrical transmission, end quote. Republicans are indicating they will favor a package that's narrowly tailored to address roads, bridges, ports, and other physical infrastructure. One Republican aide argued Democrats swelled the size of the plan, dampening the odds of a deal. Saying, quote, I think this is going to turn into a slush fund for priorities for important constituencies and important members, end quote. The aide said, you're going to get a much better work product if you have Republican senators involved in this. It will give it more longevity. And last things, guys, it says still some Democrats, such as Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, said it may be possible to split off elements of Biden's plan and strike a $1 trillion bipartisan agreement, giving Democrats space to push through the rest using budget reconciliation in a party line vote. GOP lawmakers wouldn't be likely to endorse that. And last thing, it says, quote, Republicans aren't going to allow themselves to be chumps like that, end quote. And it says that they won't give bipartisan cover to a process that will run them over in the end using reconciliation. So I skipped some of that, guys, because I just read you guys a lot. But I'm going to obviously post this link so you can check it out amongst yourselves if you like to. Questions before we go on break, though. I got questions for you guys. You know, how do you feel about the President Biden's $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan? Do you think the infrastructure plan is a bold package, or does it not go further enough? Do you agree or disagree with the Republicans on making the infrastructure package smaller? How do you feel about the Republicans' proposal on how they would pay for the infrastructure plan? Do you think that President Biden should keep negotiation talks with Republicans at the forefront of his administrative decisions? You can use the hashtag TPVibe on Twitter or send a message from the contact form on the show website, theprogressivevibe184970366.wordpress.com, because I'm curious to see what the listeners think of this, what you guys think of this. It's a lot going on. I'm going to share my thoughts and analysis in the second half. We're going to take a break, guys. When we come back, we're going to have the Vent Forum. That's the social media break. And after that, again, we're going to have the second half of the show. Stay tuned. Hey, guys. Welcome back to the show. This is the Vent Forum of the show. So let's get right into this. BL retweeted a tweet. This was from Newsweek. Chris Cuomo says reform won't happen until police kill, quote, white people's kids. Someone responded that BL retweeted, yeah, because gun reform was so swift after the Sandy Hook shooting. Such a great point. I don't know where Governor Cuomo's been, but again, Chris Cuomo's the governor of New York. But he was saying in this Newsweek to this, I guess, Newsweek reporter, saying that gun reform won't happen until police kill, quote, white people's kids. And I mean, he has a point, but then again, where have you been? Because white people's kids have been also murdered. So I don't understand the lack of consciousness, I guess, is the right pair of words to use. I don't get where Chris Cuomo's coming off on that. But I mean that is really, really telling that he's saying that, well, reform is not going to happen until enough of white people's kids start dying. But gun reform should have been happened is my point. It's not really even about that, what Cuomo's really saying specifically, even though he has a point. But you have to acknowledge something. The Sandy Hook shooting, which was the largest killing of kids in U.S. history. Like, we haven't even gotten any gun reform on that. If I'm not mistaken, those kids from Sandy Hook that, lost their lives due to gun violence, were predominantly white kids, and things still didn't change. So that should just go to show you the type of hold it's just crazy, man. The fact that there's still been no kind of gun reform. We can't even get out our own ways of, having stricter background checks on guns, or, and by the way, these things are vastly popular and supported by the majority of people in this country. Like, background checks, banning AR-15s. These are measures that Congress could take up right now because it's supported by majority of Americans, Democrat and Republican. So the point I'm trying to get at is, why isn't it being why aren't these measures being acted upon? No, it's because there's corrupt politicians that have their hands bedded in the donors' pockets of gun manufacturers. I mean, it's just that simple. It's just sad that we continue to see all these shootings and nothing is being done about it. AR-15s, I mean, that's been the sole weapon of mass shootings. It's been one of the main weapons that's been used in the mass shootings in America. But when we start talking about common sense gun legislation, people always revert back to, they're going to take your guns away from you, or they're going to take away your Second Amendment right, or we got to stop allowing ourselves to get caught up in that, passing something because you're scared that it's going to open up a Pandora box. We got to get past that in society. One last one, guys. Brandon on Twitter says, retweeted Suki's mom, or replied to Suki's mom, says, it's just so depressing how Americans have been propagandized and brainwashed to believe that being a, quote, hard worker is a virtuous quality, and that standard goes up every single year. You need to never take off a day, never complain, work 2 jobs, have a side hustle. And Brandon replied to Suki's mom saying that was doing a canvas and somebody was like, quote, cops must be okay. Cops must be okay. We have had them for a long time, end quote. And he said, same mindset. So true. I mean, it's just like this, to go off the first tweet in some regards, you know, it's like this mindset of not moving an inch in anything, no matter if it's something that's going to structurally benefit your own self, or something that's just going to, you know, potentially keep you safer in the public. I mean, it's just like no type of budge in anything. And like this whole mindset of like, you know, cops must be okay. We didn't have them for a long time. What does that even mean? Like, what does that even mean? And like the whole, you never take a day off and never complain, work 2 jobs, have a side hustle, you know, and that's, quote, being a hard worker because, you know, you do these things. Yeah, well, you can also be a hard worker and have a day off. You can be a hard worker and not work 2 jobs. You can be a hard worker and not have to be reliant upon a side hustle. You know what that's called? That's called reaching a different type of trajectory in society that benefits not one person, but everybody. Oh, it's just so infuriating. But anyway, guys, that was definitely my vent for this segment. When we come back, we're going to have the breakdown of my analysis on the infrastructure negotiations. Stay tuned, guys, and we'll be right back. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the second half of the show. So let me give you my analysis on what we discussed in the first part of the show. So as I was saying, I had some questions for you guys. You know, the whole, how do you feel about Biden's, you know, $2.3 trillion proposal, infrastructure plan proposal? Do you think it goes further? You know, do you think it goes far enough? Do you think that the Republicans' plan or plans are more sufficient than Biden's proposal? Here's my take from it. So I'm in support of bold and progressive legislation. If you're not here for those reasons, or taking into account for some of the big, bold, progressive actions that consist, the dialogue that consists of this show, then maybe you're in the wrong podcast. Because I believe that the more the better. I think when you provide, invest in your people, I think that tends to be beneficial now and long term. And I think when you don't, I think it obviously shows. And the infrastructure, I think, is a huge part in that. And let me be clear, I think infrastructure, the reason I think the package should be bigger is because I believe that healthcare is infrastructure. I believe that providing people a livable income is infrastructure. I believe that providing universal housing for people is infrastructure. Making sure people aren't hungry, providing people food, the necessities is what I'm saying. I believe all that stuff is infrastructure, broadband, all this stuff is infrastructure, right? So obviously, I think that the package should be bigger than 2.3, but I definitely don't believe that the package should be below $2.3 trillion. And it seems that the Republicans are, and it shows, it easily shows if anybody's really paying attention to the quote unquote counter offers that the Republicans are offering. They're offering a lower amount of an infrastructure plan because they don't want to pay more in taxes. That's the whole deal here. Their donors does not want it to come out their pocket. That's why they were proposing the whole user fees. User fees make, such as raising the gas taxes or the vehicle mileage tax, all this stuff. They want it to come out the people's pocket, not the government's pocket. Let's just be clear. So this whole notion of, Democrats get in power, everybody's the gas is gonna go up, and all this. And you got the Republicans literally saying that they support not only a lower amount of an infrastructure plan, they support the people who are using this infrastructure to come out their pocket. So the taxpayers don't pay enough taxes as it is, predominantly the middle class and the poor class. We already know how unfair that the tax code is for middle or low income people. So let's go ahead and get that out the way. But that's not enough. These things that the Republicans are vouching for, yeah, sure, let's do an infrastructure plan. But let's have it be lower and let's have it come out the public's pocket more so. That's a no-go, obviously. I obviously strongly disagree with the methods that the Republicans are taking here. Two sections of this that I wanted to break down, and that was the section in the article, one of the sections, the pressing Republicans to roll back Trump's tax cuts is like urging Democrats to repeal Obamacare. So let's get some stuff straight. The Republicans seem to be comparing the repeal of Trump's 2017 tax cuts to a repealment of Obamacare. The Democrats trying to repeal Obamacare. So let's just get some things straight real quick. So the 2017 tax cut that was passed by Trump and the Republicans benefited the top 10% of people in this country. Top 10%. Rich people. Trying to compare that to a repealment of Obamacare, which the Republicans tried to do when Trump was in office, is so beyond the pale, because Obamacare, even though Obamacare obviously didn't go as far as it needed to go when it comes to providing healthcare coverage to Americans, because again, I support healthcare for all. I think it should be universal. It should be a right, not a privilege. Everybody in this country who lives in this country, who's a taxpayer, should be provided universal health care. Just plain and simple. But the Republicans trying to compare that to Obamacare, repealing Obamacare, I think they're getting it twisted, because they were the ones that were trying to kick tons of people with pre-existing conditions off of Medicare. So I don't really know what kind of logic that they're speaking from, but it's not the right one. They need to be pointing the fingers at themselves as the trying to compare that with Democrats trying to repeal Obamacare. Well, the Democrats will never try to repeal Obamacare, because that was something that was helping people. It didn't go further enough, but it was helping people. The tax cuts that Trump and the Republicans had passed in 2017, it did not help anyone but rich people. So let's just get that straight. Okay? It has nothing to do with Obamacare. That logic has nothing to do with the other. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't hold water. And again, I was discussing with you guys in the first half that, Biden wanted to raise the corporate tax rate, something that Republicans are in opposition against, partially raising it back to what it was, partially, in a repealment effort of Trump's 2017 tax law that got passed in 2017. It's partial. It's not even the standard of what it was, which again was 32, 35%. It's 21% to 28%. And the Republicans are trying to frame this like it's something that is just so unconscionable. And the second part of what I wanted to discuss with you guys, it was the which was the business groups favoring spending on the infrastructure plan. So again, as I read to you guys in the first part of the show, big business groups, they wanted the infrastructure plan to be about $1.5 trillion, not 2.3. So this is a proposal from big business groups within our country throughout America that is proposing a bigger infrastructure plan than what Republicans are proposing in Congress right now. Again, Republicans are proposing $600 to $800 billion. And you have these business groups, which remind you, who are probably more pro-Republicans than they are pro-Democrat. They're even saying, well, I don't agree with the 2.3 because that's too much, but I do agree with 1.5. These businesses, they don't think it's necessary to put additional cost on the businesses, but they want the public to use these things that the businesses want, but the businesses itself don't think that it should be supplying the totality of the cost when it comes to the infrastructure provided, which is just completely wrong by the business groups. I mean, obviously, as they called it a public infrastructure investment. Okay, these multi-million-dollar corporations, potentially billion-dollar corporations, that don't pay their fair share in taxes, that gets away with a bunch of tax loopholes. They're saying that it's a public investment, but yet they don't think that they should be shouldering the amount of cost when it comes to the infrastructure package. Well, sad day for you, because that's how it needs to happen, honestly. I'm gonna just put it in simple terms. Ordinary people, or ordinary jobs, don't make millions and millions of dollars every year like corporations do. And if you want to invest in the public, then you should invest by shouldering the cost of the infrastructure that you're trying to have the public come and quote unquote support. And so it's just like this. It's just like the corporations are on the fine line of trying to appease to the Republicans and to the people, or trying to have their cake and eat it too. Like, yeah, we support a $1.5 trillion plan, but we don't support a $2.3 trillion plan. Yeah, we agree that we should invest in the public, but we don't agree on shouldering the cost of the infrastructure plan itself. So these things, to me, they all just point into money consolidation, saving money. And all these platforms want to use the people as their prop, but they don't want to take a word out of what the business group said. Invest. They don't want to invest. They don't want to invest in the public, but they want to say all the right things. And the Democrats are going to have to start doing party line votes. They're just going to have to start doing this. And I think that this infrastructure bill, I mean, as the article said, the Republicans are saying, why should we agree on this anyway if you're just going to pass it through reconciliation? Well, hold your breath, because it doesn't seem like the Democrats are going to do that. I mean, I wish that they would. I mean, but it just seems like, they're still trying to pander and look for this bipartisanship, the stuff that they aren't going to agree with the Republicans on. They're still trying to negotiate on those said matters. And the Republicans have already concluded that they're not going to support anything that the Biden administration proposes. So, because they think that it's going to be passed through reconciliation anyway. And if you ask me, the Democrats should take a page out of what the Republicans just laid out. Well, we're not gonna do anything anyway, because you guys are going to pass it in reconciliation. So why bother? Okay, well, the Democrats should also have that same energy. Why bother? We have the public on our side. The vast majority of Americans agree with the policy proposals that we're sitting on. Keywords: the Democrats are sitting on popular legislation, and 2022 rolls around here and they start losing seats in the House and in the Senate. They're going to be looking to point fingers, and it's not going to be any finger pointing but to themselves. It's all out there. It's all out there. Start investing in the public. Start passing things that the public wants. Therefore, it gives you what you want, and that's power. And if you're not going to do the public's work, then you're going to suffer the consequences into backtracking and losing ground. And it's just going to be a repeated process all over again. God, listeners, it's just frustrating, because it's just like, you want people to get involved in politics and vote on both sides, on Republican side and Democratic side, and they do nothing to gain new voters. And I'm not obviously, like, I'm not a Republican. I'm not even a Democrat, even though I lean to Democratic values. I'm an independent. But looking at this independently, neither party is doing anything to appease to their base. Nothing. Anyway, guys, we're going to wrap up this second half. That was my analysis on it. I hope you like what you heard on it. We're going to close out the show in the next segment, so stay tuned, you guys. Welcome back to the show, guys. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode. I hope everyone really enjoyed the dialogue that we had today. It was very, very fun, very, very enlightening. I hope you guys thought the same. I want to thank the Home Love. I want to thank the International Love. meaning I want to thank everybody who listens to the podcast in the United States, and I want to thank everybody who listens outside of the United States, the listeners out there. You guys really, you just don't know how much the feedback, as I said in the first beginning of the show, like the support and the feedback is very, very humbling, to say the least. And I hope you guys continue to, check me out every Sunday, 4 p.m. Again, that's every Sunday at 4 p.m. We will have a new episode ready to go for you guys. But before we cut out, I wanted to also say, if you have something you want me to discuss on the podcast, if you want to stay in touch with the show, if you want to help us make the show by donating any generous amount, that would be very, very helpful. You can do all of this at The Progressive Vibe 184-970-366.wordpress.com. Again, the website is The Progressive Vibe 184-970-366.wordpress.com. There you can use the hashtag TVIBE on Twitter, or send a message from the contact form on the show. You can enter your email address to stay in touch with the show, to get every new episode delivered straight to your inbox. And if you want to help us make stories matter more, you can donate at the website. I really, really do appreciate you all. Until next time, guys, stay positive, stay progressive. Love you. See you guys next week.